Om Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavagai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwarah, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Samasta Jana Kalyane, Niratam Karunamayam, Namami Chinmayam Devam, Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram, Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Vaktum Subodha Vedantam Pravruto Hyabudopyaham Kripaya Yasya Tam Vande Shri Ganesham Punah Punah Vande Saraswatim Devim Sadgurum Me Mahamatim Sita Sameta Shri Ramam Yachantu Shubhadam Matim.
We have seen various sadhanas, spiritual practices, which are step one practices. Step one means it is aimed at mastering your mind. So, chitta shuddhi sadhana. So, aimed at mastering the mind. We saw a lot of them, and last one that we saw was the japa. Japa was there. We talked about different types of japa according to the mantra that you use. Yeah. So there's a Vaidika mantra from the Vedas. Then there is Mahavakya mantra. And then what we call Purana mantra. It's not really Purana mantra, but we find it more commonly used in Puranas. Vaidika mantras are those that are generally chanted to invoke devatas. So those devatas give you special blessings. Yeah. Like even Gayatri mantra. Gayatri mantra, what are we doing? We are actually doing our meditation upon the effulgence of Lord Surya. So Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So intellect becomes inspired. Yeah. So may Surya Bhagavan inspire our intellect. Yeah. Then in Meda Suktam, may Saraswati give us greater Meda Shakti, memory power. These are useful things for a seeker as well, because we need all these capacities on our spiritual journey. And so they can be chanted. Yeah. And these chants are a little bit more complex, but they have their own various methods in which they must be done according to the intonations according to the Vedas. So you need a teacher for these things. These things you not just pick up by yourself and try. It's good to have a teacher so that you're chanting them properly, so the Devata is properly invoked. Then Mahavakya mantras, we said those mantras are mantras that they reveal the nature of the self. Yeah? The self is one with Brahman. These mantras are not, you don't do japa on these mantras. Yeah? These mantras you do vichar, you do inquiry. So you don't take up a japa mala and do japa on this type of tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi. Yeah? They're called Mahavakya mantras. The ones that we do chitta shuddhi for is largely these Purana mantras, which are just names of the Lord. We take the name of the Lord and we do namaskar. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yeah? Prostrations to Lord Vasudeva. Yeah? That's all it says. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Even Shri Krishna, Sharanam Mama, Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's the name of Lord. These are more like Puran, even though these are actually even found in Upanishads. You will find these mantras in Upanishads. But largely they become popular during the Puranic era. Yeah. These mantras are what we are supposed to chant. Yeah? We should continually keep chanting these mantras as japa. One as a seated japa, and then even throughout the day, you can chant these mantras. Yeah. Because you're not invoking a devata specifically, and nor are you trying to contemplate. You are just chanting the name of the Lord. So eventually, you develop more devotion to God, and we saw that by having more devotion to God, it uproots our negative tendencies. Yeah. Whenever we have strong devotion towards the Lord, but even a person, but more effectively with God, it becomes easier to face the negative thoughts within our mind. That's why sometimes people try to do introspection and self-analysis, but it can lead to a lot of guilt actually. Because you start seeing a lot of terrible things within your mind and terrible things within your thought, and you feel so terrible about yourself. And that's why Bhakti Shakti is very important. We must have strength of devotion in spite of all these wonderful negativities I have, flaws and defects in my personality. That still, I am Amrita Putra. I am a child of the divine. We should never forget that. And no matter how bad my conduct has been, apichet sudaracharo, if I worship God, bhajate mam ananyabhak, then God says he considers that person a saint. Sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito hisaha. If you commit to change, Bhagavan says, I don't care about your past. Now move ahead. That's why devotion is very important, because devotion will help in the next part, which is the inquiry. Because in this inquiry, when we start looking at our thoughts, it's not always friendly. It can be a little bit unpleasant. Some unpleasant things are there. But that's okay. None of these things are new. The main thing is that whatever you introspect, don't think it's unique to you. Everyone has had those thoughts at some point in time. It's all been there. From creation onwards, all weird and wonderful thoughts have been there. That's why when you read Puranas, some of the stories are very weird and wonderful. It's just to show that. It's to show that every weird and wonderful thought you can think of, someone already had it. Some devata has had it, some god has had it, some ordinary person has it, some rakshasa has had it. Everyone has had these thoughts. So don't be disturbed. They're there. Behind all this is pure divinity. So that's why we need a very japa fortified mind, or bhakti fortified mind. Bhakti fortified mind before we enter into the process of proper vichar. Not intellectual understanding. Proper vichar is self-analysis, not mere theoretical understanding of Vedanta. Yeah, you put yourself under the microscope. Atma vichar. Okay. So now we have seen step 1, techniques to purify the mind. Now we'll look step 2. Yeah, step 2, Atma vichar. Okay, so now
Yenatma darshanam bhuyat, yenatma darshanam bhuyat, antarangam taduchyate, antarangam taduchyate, shravanam mananam dhyanam, shravanam mananam dhyanam, sakshatkarasya sadhanam, sakshatkarasya sadhanam. Inner spiritual practice is that by which self-knowledge takes place. Listening, reflection on what is heard, and meditation are the means for this direct knowledge of the self.
Now, this is step 2. This is a step 2 advanced stage of spiritual practice, which is called path of inquiry. Okay? Antarangam Yena Atmadarshanam Bhuyat, that by which Atmadarshanam, one comes to realize oneself. Yeah, that by which one comes to realize oneself, Antarangam Taduchyate, that is called Antaranga Sadhana, inner sadhana, inner practice. And what is it? Shravanam, Mananam, Dhyanam, Sakshakarasya Sadhanam. Yeah, these are the three. Direct means Sakshat Karasya Sadhanam. Direct means are Shravanam, listening, Mananam, reflecting, and Dhyanam, deep contemplation. We won't call meditation, for deep contemplation. Yeah. So now, these are called, technically these three are called Jnana Sadhana or Jnana Abhyasa, practice of knowledge. So people want to know what the practice of knowledge is. It means this, Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. What does the path of knowledge mean? It means fully dedicated to this, Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Okay. This is different towards a mere intellectual study. Okay. Now, if you look at this, why this has now become so important? Because our fundamental issue in life, we are experiencing symptoms. The symptoms we are experiencing are called sorrow, called shoka. Yeah, that shoka can be in the form of unhappiness, dukkam, grief, regret, envy, anxiety, anger, desire, all these. These are all symptoms. The cause of these symptoms is avidya, ignorance. Ignorance is the cause of all these things. All sorrows in life are caused by ignorance. They are not caused by, relationship difficulties. They are not caused because this person is so stubborn and obstinate. They are not caused because the government is not doing enough. They are not caused because my children are too noisy. They are not caused because mortgage rates are too high. No. They are all caused by ignorance. That's it, bas. Ignorance is the source of everything. And that ignorance is ignorance of oneself. The ignorance of oneself expresses in one thought. And that thought is, I am not good enough. That's the thought. I am not good enough. This is how ignorance of the self expresses. I am not good enough. This thought is sitting very deep in our subconscious recess. I am not good enough. And many times we don't meet it daily, but it now has got further expressions. This I am not good enough will express in two ways. One, I am not loved. I don't feel loved and cared for. Yeah, I'm not worthy of love. People don't show me enough affection. Yeah, that's one expression. I don't feel loved. So I hanker then for affection and I run after people's affection. Yeah, pursuit of affection. The other one is I'm not competent. That's the second expression. I'm not competent. You know, I'm a bit nervous about trying out this new project. I'm a bit nervous about taking up this task. I'm a bit unsure. Can I do it? Don't know if I can do it. All fear of failure is connected to this. Fear of failure is connected to the notion I am not competent. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I don't think I can do it. Everyone else seems to be much smarter. All of them are wearing fancy suits and nice ties. My tie and suit has been there for 20 years. I don't know if I'm up to the mark. Yeah, whether your tie and suit are 20 years old does not show competence or incompetence. It shows a lack of fashion in wardrobe, but it does not show competence or incompetence. Yeah. But this I am not good enough is the central problem. And Shastra says this is ignorance. Because the reality is you are perfect. The reality is you are complete. You are Purnam. The reality is you are Ananda. You are bliss. This is the truth. But because of this ignorance, I now feel I am not good enough, and now I must go outside to find my happiness, somehow make myself feel good. This thought of ignorance is very deeply placed. It's very deep. It's the very foundation of the ego. So it's the foundation of our entire false identity. Yeah. Now, whenever a thought is deeply placed, what that means is, now, whatever, we must understand one thing. This is called ignorance. First of all, ignorance has an antidote. Ignorance can be removed. The antidote to ignorance is knowledge. Avidya is removed by vidya. Ajnanam removed by jnanam. Yeah. So there is an antidote to this. So we don't need to remain helpless and hopeless. Yeah. That I'm stuck with this ignorance. No, there's an antidote. It's called knowledge. But the deeper ignorance has been placed, you need very firm, doubt-free, and fully convinced of this knowledge. You must be very convinced of that knowledge. If the ignorance is very deep. When the ignorance is very shallow, you don't need a very strong conviction. We don't need a very strong conviction. Like if someone just tells you, you say you try some new type of food, like some milk or something, yeah? And you try some, maybe you're going vegan, so you try some soy milk, yeah? And then when you take that soy milk up, now you don't know much about it, yeah? There's a little bit of ignorance, but not a lot. And then someone tells you, oh, this soy milk, don't take. It has some protein that they're using, which are not very helpful. Oh, huh? They say that. They might say that. Now, when they say that, because your ignorance about it is not so deeply rooted, you are not fixed in a certain notion about that, then when someone says, don't do this, you follow quite quickly. You're happy to accept that knowledge because your ignorance is not so strong. Yeah. But now when ignorance is very strong, which means it's a thought pattern you've been living with for your whole life. Yeah. And then to undo that, it requires more work. So a thought pattern that I've been living with my whole life, yeah. Like say you have a thought pattern, our parents should always show us affection and protect us. As children, we've always had this as a very strong thought pattern. But then as you become fully, as you become older and older, become a full matured adult, and your parents start becoming weaker, then all of a sudden that thought gets challenged because they cannot protect you now. You have to protect them. Yeah. And to change that thought becomes difficult. As much as you may accept it, yeah, they're old, they need help. But actually to become their support when the whole time they have been your support. Now to become their support. Now even elderly people also go through depression and all that, Now imagine if you have to treat your parents for depression. That would be very confronting for people. Yeah, because we are so used to living with the opposite thought that they are supposed to protect me and now I have to protect them. Yeah. So that's called a very deep-seated ignorance or thought pattern. To undo that thought pattern, just merely hearing something will not be enough. You have to sharpen, you have to refine, you have to become completely convinced of that knowledge so that it goes deep into the subconscious and uproots that ignorance, that old belief. Yeah. So that's why we have this three-step process. This three-step process is about sharpening that knowledge and making that knowledge more powerful so we can go deeper and deeper and deeper to uproot ignorance. Like another example, if I have to dig just a little bit in the ground, say I just need to take the surface of the ground, you can even use a stick. Yeah, you have to push things away. You can even use your hands to rip the grass off. Yeah, and then maybe you use a shovel. Yeah, now you have to go deeper. Now when you go deeper, you have to use a shovel, but you might eventually realize now there's hard rock down there. Hard rock, even your shovel doesn't work. Then you realize you need a harder digging tool, a drill, huh? Excavator, huh? All of a sudden, the tools that are required must be more powerful because you're going deeper. Same way, knowledge must become strengthened. It must become a stronger and stronger tool, because if you want to deal with deeper and deeper levels of ignorance, your knowledge must be very powerful, must be very strong, fortified. Cannot be a stick that will break, cannot be a shovel that will bend. Must be titanium drill, boring into your psyche. This is what you need. Heavy machinery. You need heavy machinery. So now this three-step process of knowledge is really understanding heavy machinery. That's what we're trying to develop here, okay? So in these 3 steps, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, okay? Now, first one, Shravanam. Listening, it's called listening, yeah? Now, what is the purpose of listening? So when we listen now, there's also something you should achieve when you listen. Each one of these stages, they have a goal that you're supposed to achieve. So the goal of Shravanam is to clearly identify the main theme of what you have heard. That's what you're supposed to do. Clearly identify the main theme. Main theme. Main theme is called Tatparya in Sanskrit. Tatparya. Tatparya means main theme. And when you listen, you should always get the main theme. Only when you've identified main theme, then you can say your listening is complete. If you've not identified the main theme, your listening is not complete. Yeah. Now, this is something which is so relevant in all aspects of life, not just study of Shastra. What is the main theme? Like when you read an email, and in some emails, people will write different points because pleasantry will be there. Then this, and then sometimes how was your family? And then and then some main theme will be there. That you should pick up. Don't reply and saying family is good, I'm enjoying lockdown, and then hit the reply button. What's your decision on this? That person may be asking you, we want a decision. And you have just inquired and shared about your wonderful time in lockdown and spending time with your children. Yeah. And we look forward to catching up with you in the future when the world goes back to normal. But you didn't answer my question. My question was, is this a go ahead or is this not? Do I get green light or no green light? There are some people like that. They don't answer these questions. They only talk pleasantries. I mean, main theme has not been understood. Yeah. In conversations, this also happens. People talk and they don't know what message they were supposed to give, and the listener also doesn't understand why did you even call? That's also a bit, I don't understand why he called. Just called 40 minutes we talk and I don't know what happened. Yeah. What the purpose of your call also? The main thing should be there. So this is imperative in all things. Always be able to identify main theme, Tatparya, because this is the main thrust of this text. This is what this text is trying to teach you. And always with the main theme, some texts will give you what's called auxiliary topics. Auxiliary means secondary topics. Yeah. We all do this. Even when we speak, we have a main theme, but then we also have some side topics that we give. Yeah. Don't miss, you should never get confused between main topic and side topic. Because some people get very caught in the side topic because the side topic can be very fascinating. Side topics generally are more juicy. They're a bit more juicy and sometimes more practical. You know, sometimes more practical. So people get caught in the practicalities of it, or the juiciness of it, or the relevance of it. Sometimes the side topic may be more immediately relevant. Yeah. Now, you see, now, even when I'm talking, even this class, you should identify what the main theme of this one class is. Because some people might walk away and say, oh, Swamiji, you talked about that thing with parents. And with parents, we are supposed to support them. But then isn't this conflict with our dharma? And then they will call me and then write a message saying, huh, Swamiji, is it dharma to serve parents, or who's supposed to protect who? That's not the main theme of what we're discussing here only. The main theme is Shravanam only. That was the example. Don't get lost in illustrations. This very commonly happens. Okay? So, Tatparya Nirnaya, it is called. Ascertaining the main theme. When this has been done, Shravanam is complete. Yeah, Shravanam is complete. You're done. Now we are talking context of Vedanta Shastra. In Vedanta Shastra, the main theme, they boil down to three things. Brahma Satyam. Brahman, the infinite, alone is true. Jagan Mithya, this world is an illusion. And Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha, the individual self is nothing but Supreme Self. Jiva is Brahman. They say even Jiva Brahma Aikyam is the main theme. That's it. Once you understand this, the other two make sense. Shankaracharya has given these three things. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Brahman, the infinite, is true. World is an illusion. And individual self is nothing but Supreme Self. It is identical with the Supreme Self. It is not a part of the Supreme Self. It is not a portion of the Supreme Self. It is not devoted to the Supreme Self. It is the Supreme Self. That's what that means. Brahma, Jiva, Brahma, Aikyam, oneness. This is the main theme of Vedanta. Okay? Now you see in Bhagavad Gita, even in Bhagavad Gita, this is the main theme actually. But there's another topic Bhagavad Gita takes up, which most people get confused and lost in and more fascinated with. What is that? What is that theme that Bhagavad Gita takes up? Which more people focus on that than they do on the main theme.
Karma.
Karma yoga. Karma yoga. Doing your duties. That's why a lot of people say, oh, Bhagavad Gita says we must do our duties. That's not the main theme of the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, Bhagavad Gita doesn't even say you should do your duties. Bhagavad Gita says how you should do your duties. It doesn't say do your duties. And nor does it tell you what duties you're supposed to do. It doesn't even tell you that. It's not a Dharma Shastra. He knows Arjuna's a warrior and he knows Arjuna's supposed to fight. Now he's telling you with what attitude should you do your duties. But it's not telling you to do your duties, nor is it telling you what your duties are. It is saying what attitude you should do your duties with. Yajñārtam karmanonyatra. Do it with spirit of yajna. That's how you're supposed to do it. Yeah. This whole discussion on karma yoga is secondary. It's actually secondary. The main theme is actually knowledge. Because if you see the first 20 verses of Upadesh are pure knowledge. He talks about what the nature of the Atma is. And Arjuna starts with his confusion by saying, Yat Shreyasyan Nishitam Bruhi Talmi. What is the greatest good for me? Shreya means greatest good. Shreya also means moksha. Nishreyasa means moksha. And at the end, Bhagavan says, is your ignorance gone? Kaschit ajnana sammoha pranashtaste dhananjaya. That's how it concludes. So it starts by Arjuna saying, I am ignorance, dharma sammuda chetaha. And please tell me what is the highest good, which is moksha. And Bhagavan finishes by saying, is your ignorance gone? He doesn't say, are you ready to do your duties? He says, is your ignorance gone? That's what he says. And Bhagavan's first line of Upadesh is Nanu Shochanti Panditaha. Wise people don't grieve. He didn't say people who have done their duties don't grieve. He said wise people don't grieve. So the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is actually jnanam. But a lot of people confused, think it's about karma. There's a classic confusion that can take place. This means you have not identified main theme. That's why you keep on listening until you get the main theme. And it's not that it's easy. Vedanta's main theme is very subtle. It is the hardest knowledge there is. Adhyatma Vidya, Vidyanam is of all knowledges, this is Param. This is the best knowledge, Raja Vidya. It's the king of all knowledges. So it is difficult. It is durvigneya. It's a bit hard to understand. That's why we continually have to do Shravanam, because it's not easy to understand. Okay? So how do I know that really Shravanam has been done? I can clearly identify the main theme of a text. And I said, this is a skill in thinking. This is not an academic thing that you are doing just for the sake of Shastra study. In all forms of interaction, you should be able to identify main theme, the main thrust. Even in your relationships, it will help you. Because if you can understand what is the main theme of why this person is talking to me, because some people are very scared to present what they want to say. So they blabber on about all other things. And then you have to figure out why this person is going on and on and on around in circles, because there's something they want to say, but they're very scared, or they lack clarity, or they lack confidence, or they're hesitant to say it in front of you. You have to decipher that. Say, what do you want to say? What are you trying to say? Must get to that. Because if you don't address that, that person leaves. He will never feel that that conversation is complete. He say, you didn't get me. Or say, you don't understand me. Or say, you cut me off. Or you hung up too early. Or blah, blah, blah. You get to the point. So, main theme. Shastra, there's a technical way of getting to the main theme, but I don't know if I'll share it. It's a bit too long. Nah, we'll give it a miss. It's too much detail. It's a bit too technical. We will look into how Shravanam should be done. Okay, so now you understand purpose of Shravanam, identify main theme. How that Shravanam should be done in a spiritual context, but even all contexts, how Shravanam should be done. There's a nice verse that is given in Shiva Purana. Shiva Purana, one verse is there about Shravanam. Kathade nitya sammanam kurvan dehadibhir muda stirasanena tatpanam yatta shravanamuchyate. Beautiful. This is a beautiful. Now, context here is Katha Shravanam, listening to story. But this goes for all. Katha dehe, listening to Katha or listening to whatever is going on. Nitya sammanam. Manam, respect. Nitya sammanam, with continuous respect. Kurvan, doing. Dehadibir mudha. Mudha, joyfully. Some joy and fascination should be there. So sammanam, respect. Mudha, joy and fascination. Stirasanena tatpanam. Stirasanena, sitting still. Asana means posture. Stira means still. Not moving about, washing the dishes, hanging the clothes out and folding things. This is how we do Shravanam nowadays. They're all running around the house and Shravanam is going on the side. Shravanam is a secondary thing to our primary thing that is something else. He says, Stirasarena, you should be sitting still. Yattat Shravanamuchyate. This is how Shravanam is supposed to be done. Okay? Now look, 3 components are given. With full respect, with joy, and by sitting still. 3 aspects of our personality: body, mind, intellect. How should the body be? Still. So when we are listening, we should not be moving about. See, even in conversation, if you want to have a deep, meaningful conversation with a person, you should sit down with them and talk to them. Hmm? Not while you are doing some other thing on the side, washing the dishes, while your child is trying to explain why they failed their entire year and have to be repeated. You should stop your dishes at that time and let go of the dishes. You might break it on the child. Yeah, very important. You might get so angry you start breaking the dishes. Yeah, so that's why you have to let go of everything, especially knives. Make sure you drop all the knives and the forks. Any weapon you better drop, otherwise problem to start. Or ladle. Ting, yeah, ting. Don't do things. So, sthirasanam, sit still. Simple thing is when body is still, it's easier for the mind to be still. If body is moving, part of the mind always has to be engaged in controlling the body. So you always lose a percentage of your mental energy in your physical movement. Even if it's simple as walking, which is a very ingrained movement, but even in walking, balance, some obstacle might be in the way, open the door, change the light, all this type of thing. Mind, a part of your mental attention is always consumed in physical action. That's why they say we want full mental attention, stop the physical action. Yeah. And this is something we have to do now because most of our satsang now, we don't do face to face. Yeah. All days in an ashram, you sat in front of a teacher, that's it, you can't move anyway. You know, Gurudev used to tell people off in yajnas, 10,000 people would be sitting there. There's a story that there was 5 to 10,000 people sitting in a yajna. Can't even imagine that many people sitting in front of a person listening. He stopped the talk because one person came in late and was walking down the aisle to get their seat. He stopped the talk. He would do things like that. And he told that person off, sit down. 10,000 people got told. In front of 10,000 people, we got told off. This is the discipline that is required. People that are serious, this is the discipline that is required. So, first thing is by sitting still, you give yourself the best chance of grasping things deeply because your mental attention is not deviated, distracted, or dissipated in physical action. So sit still. This also means, there's another thing which is not mentioned here, Acharyasya mukhat shavanam. You should hear shavanam from the mouth of a teacher. Of course, now we cannot do that, so we have to do from the audio speaker of our laptop, but it's okay. Technically speaking, we should be listening from a live teacher. We should sit in front of a teacher and always learn. That's always the best thing. Some people, we have become convinced now that actually we can just learn online. Slowly we're becoming convinced that online learning is enough. Don't need to go and meet a teacher and sit in front of everything on YouTube, can hear everything. Gita is there, Upanishad is there, everything is there. No, you have to sit in front of a teacher, a living teacher. Why? The second aspect, muda, joy. These are the mind. When we are listening, some joy and happiness should be there, which means what? It should mean fascination should be there for the topic. We should be fascinated with that topic, not boring. Oh, I've been attending this class every week and I unfortunately left my camera on. I should have turned my camera off at the start, and now Swamiji will know that I'm not there because every week the camera is turned on and he might ask, where were you? Camera was not on. It's very hard for me to track actually. I don't know, but I shouldn't tell you that. But no, I do know. Now I know all of you. So everyone whose camera is on, I expect you there every week. If you're listening out of obligation, then this is not the best form of listening. You're listening because some people listening time pass, nothing else to do. Saturday morning, a bit boring actually. Everyone else is doing. Children have gone out for a walk. I'm left at home by myself. It's either do this or wash the dishes. If I do this, I can avoid washing dishes. So sometimes it is avoidance of seva, avoidance of duty. That's also one part. Because some people, they come to the ashram, and actually they have brought their children there, and they don't know what else to do for that 1 hour because house is too far to drive home. And so they say, oh, what to do? Time pass, sitting Swamiji. Because the chairs are a bit more comfortable, maybe in the hall than in their car. So maybe sit in the chair, they sit there. So sometimes time pass is going on. Yeah. So this is also not the best intention of living. But even if through time pass something drops into your head, that's better than nothing. But it's not the best attitude of a student to be time passing. Fascination and interest is why we should be listening. Fascination. And this is why when you have a live teacher that you're in front of can easier to create fascination, because they are actually able to engage your mind. But even now, I can see people's faces, it's easier to engage. But when you can't see anyone's face, it's almost like just talking to the computer yourself. Yeah, there's a big difference. I'm telling you as a teacher now, there's a very big difference between camera on, camera off. Yeah, you end up just teaching those with the camera on. Those with cameras off, you don't even know they exist. They don't seem to be there. So the teachers change, the teacher's engagement and presence makes you enjoy it. You will start enjoying it a lot more when the actual teacher is present. That muda, that means you start enjoying satsang. You start enjoying satsang. Yeah. And last one is sammanam, with respect you listen. That means ideas that are shared, these ideas should be deeply thought about. Not casually thought and not casually discarded. Yeah, but anything you listen to casually, you don't remember. If there's lack of respect or reverence, we're not talking about disrespecting. We're saying not having reverence for something. When you don't have reverence for something, you don't give it your full attention. When there's reverence for something, there's more attention and also greater memory, grasping power of what he said. But like if they said it, must be important. Like now, if you go meet your friend and you ask your friend for financial advice on trading or something like that, your friend himself doesn't know what to do himself. Yeah, so he's also dibbling and dabbling around. Yeah, so when he's sharing his ideas about trading, you're half listening, half checking some cricket score, half doing something else. You're not that bothered. But now this guy, say you go meet an expert, he's the #1 stock trader in the entire world, and you go to his seminar. Now, Warren Buffett comes to town. I don't know if he's alive still, but I just say he does. And then he comes and then he tells you, secrets to getting rich. Now, when you listen to Warren Buffett talking, I think the level of attention you give to him versus your friend who's dibbling and dabbling on the side, I think it'll be quite different. Yeah. So this is called listening with reverence, because he is such a great expert in the field that you will listen. Funniest thing is, sometimes the message is the same. When you listen to successful people, they all say the same thing: hard work. But when hard work comes from your friend next to you who's dibbling and dabbling, then you challenge him and you say, no, you see, this fool, he works too hard. I work smart. Yeah, I'm into smart work, not hard work. And that I already told you last week, no? That being smart is hard. It's the same thing only. So, but when you hear, and your parents told you to work hard, they always have to tell us to work hard, because if we're not working hard, we're playing around, and they hate us playing around. But they had a lot of ulterior motives for telling us to work hard, because it was keeping us out of their way. Yeah, keep on working hard. Yeah. So, but when Warren Buffett says work hard, they say, oh, we should work hard now. Now, why? His same message he gave, your mother gave, your grandmother gave, grandfather gave, father gave, your friend dibbling and dabbling also gave, coach of the basketball team also gave. Everyone said work hard. But when this man said work hard, I better work hard now. That's because reverence is there. Sammanam. You are listening with sammanam. That's why. That's why it's like that. Yeah. I listened to a talk by Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, he's a very big personality, top of all many fields, not just acting, bodybuilding, and politics. Very interesting person. And his bottom line is you have to work hard. That's it. He starts off by saying, secret of success is hard work. That's it. I think his talk is learn how to sleep less. Stop sleeping so much. That's the name of his talk. It's quite funny. He says, learn to sleep faster. I think there's something like that, some comment he makes, which was a very funny comment. Bottom line is work hard. Yeah. And so this is called listening with reverence. Yeah. So when we listen, these three factors should be there. Reverence, then joy and fascination, and then physically still. Yeah. With these three things, this is how Shravanam is supposed to be done. And in field of Vedanta, obviously we must listen and sit in front of a teacher. Yeah. That's why, you know, even if teachers are in India, obviously after all this thing is gone, but after COVID and all that, then, you know, we should make an attempt to go to India and meet great teachers that are there, because they are not also going to travel around the whole world all the time. Go there, sit in camp, sit in an ashram, study from them. Great masters. If they're available, go and learn from them. So this is all about Shravanam. The purpose of Shravanam is for identifying the main theme. Okay, well, that's the goal of Shravanam, I should say. Purpose of Shravanam is just to introduce new idea. Introduce the new idea. Yeah. So that you stop operating with old ideas. So now that's the, once you can identify main theme clearly of any topic, any subject, any discourse, then you are very skilled in Shravanam. Then you must move to the next part. The next part is called Mananam. Mananam is reflection. This is where a lot of people get stuck. We actually get stuck between Shravanam and Mananam. A lot of people become very used to just listening. And then obviously after some time you get bored listening. Yeah, so then you just keep listening to different things. We start looking for more variety. And we get caught by trying to get more variety rather than more depth. Yeah, that we keep going for more variety instead of greater depth. Depth is what is required. We have to dig deep. And depth requires reflection. Reflection. Now, what is the goal and purpose of Mananam? In Mananam, now you've done Shravanam, you've heard some ideas. You've identified the main theme of the topic, and now you've written it down. But just because you have written it down, it does not mean your belief system has changed. And here we have to understand a bit about how our mind works. Our mind has got two aspects to it, conscious and subconscious. Our conscious mind is run by our intellect. Our intellect. Yeah. But subconscious mind is run by beliefs. Beliefs. So conscious mind is run by intellect. Intellect sets certain goals, certain targets, and it rationalizes certain things. Yeah. So our conscious thinking can be guided by a lot of logic. But actually, our lifestyle, our decisions, our reactions, our view of life, perception of life, vision of life is all run not by conscious mind, it's actually run by subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is the one that determines your vision of life. So say you heard now this concept, you must work hard, right? Hard work brings success. But if in your subconscious, there is a belief against this, that hard work does not bring success. As much as you consciously hear this message, it will not change your lifestyle. You will not implement it. Because subconsciously, you have a different thought pattern. That thought pattern says, no, there's always a shortcut. Let's just say you have that thought. There's always a shortcut. Yeah? And this is a belief that you have. This is in your subconscious. There's always a shortcut. Now, when someone tells you about hard work and they explain the entire logic behind it, and you must be thorough, and you must be detailed, and you must be systematic, you'll listen to it and it'll sound like it makes a lot of sense. You'll be fascinated because it's new, it's novel. But if you don't reflect on it, it will just stay on the surface, and eventually when the next breeze comes, it will be blown away. This idea will not last with you. It is like taking seeds and just scattering them on the ground. When you throw seeds onto a ground, they don't grow into anything. You have to plant them in the soil. You have to push that seed down, you have to add water, and you have to protect it. Then only that seed will take root and a plant will grow. But if you just scatter seeds on a surface, birds come and eat it. Wind blows it. Water washes it away. And the sun dries the seed up so it doesn't germinate. This is what happens when we hear lots of ideas, but we don't think about them. So when we hear lots of ideas, there's lots of seeds getting scattered on our conscious mind, but they don't get pushed into the subconscious. So the next breeze, which means the next fad, the next fascinating topic of new age personality that comes, you get carried away with that. Because it's so fascinating. Because you didn't reflect over the earlier ones. And then what happens is after some time, that person you'll find is saying the same thing. And then you will also say, now I'm getting bored of this message. Get rid of that person. Go for another person. You keep on going through, roll a deck of teachers. Because none of the messages are going in. They all keep getting, and lifestyle remains the same. And that's why we get tired. We say, this doesn't work. I feel like this doesn't work. It doesn't work because you haven't paid enough attention. You haven't done the mananam. Yeah. So mananam now is taking this seed and planting it. From conscious mind, it must somehow start making roots into the subconscious. Start preparing that soil. Because our lifestyle is determined by subconscious. Lifestyle, vision, decisions, emotional reactions under pressure, they are all determined by subconscious mind, not by conscious mind. Conscious mind is where you exercise levels of control. You try to control yourself, but you know, there's a lot of frustration and suppression underneath. You know why? Because consciously you're controlling, but subconsciously you're in complete disagreement to that person. That's why this big reaction is going on. So subconscious, you're feeling completely the opposite of what that message is. Consciously, you are just exercising decorum, decency, civil behavior, and therefore you act in a certain way because you know that's supposedly the appropriate response, but subconsciously you don't agree with it. So you end up living a different life. You end up living a different, your life that you live is very different to the life that you portray. So we portray one thing, but we live something else. This happens because enough reflection hasn't been done. The subconscious is not changing. So changing the subconscious, or starting to give these seeds, I should say giving these seeds, planting them deeper into your mind. Yeah. From conscious, now you want roots to go into the subconscious. This is what mananam is doing. Okay. In simple terms, then what we say is you have to make that knowledge doubt free. And the reason why we don't hold on to these pieces of knowledge, messages that are given, because we have a lot of doubts about them. Because subconsciously, we have lived opposite. Subconsciously, I get away with shortcuts. And now you're saying, I have to be thorough. But subconsciously, my whole life has been, I get away with shortcuts. You may think you're getting away with shortcuts. You can just have a lot of people around you that are doing all the work. That's generally what happens. Other people are doing all the work, and you think you're prospering by taking shortcuts. You're prospering because they're picking up and cleaning up after you. And sometimes there's a point in time where people get frustrated and say, we're not doing anymore. We quit. And then you'll wonder why all this is happening. You'll be very surprised. Why is this happening? You'll be shocked at that time. Because they have been doing the hard work for your company to have its success. You have been riding on short term, shortcuts. But finally, the results have been coming through hard work. It's the hard work you have not been doing. Someone else has been doing. But hard work is what has brought success. In all fields, it can happen in family as well. One family member is doing all the work with the children, all the effort. And the other one wonders why the children don't love them, why there's no respect, why there's no affection, because they don't put any hard work in. Any relationship is like that. Yeah? The one who puts the hard work in, that is the one that gets success. Yeah? The child that spends lots of time with the parent and serves them and listens to them, that child the parent like. The other child that just comes and drops a whole lot of money and then goes. Okay, you gave money, paid the hospital bills, but we don't feel connected to you. We feel connected to the other child because that child did all the hard work. All relationships, it's the same. It's the same. So, the whole point here is that when we hear an idea, identify a topic, we must recognize we are not going to necessarily agree with it. We are going to have doubts about that main theme. Now I said, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Brahman being Satyam, people don't mind. Infinite is alone real. But the second concept is a big problem. Jagat is Mithya. That can have a lot of problems. World is an illusion. That's why I'm not very happy about that. Swamiji, in your mind, it's an illusion, but the rest of us have got, bills to pay. So I'm sorry, Swamiji. It's nice for you and for Pioneer Drive, but in the real world, we use this frame. After Vedanta class, it's very nice, Swamiji. But in the real world, I don't think this works. But you already said the world is real. And I spent the whole lecture saying Jagan was Mithya. And then you walked out of it by saying real world. It's the complete opposite of what I just said. I said Jagat was Mithya, and then you left by saying Jagat Satyam. The question itself has Jagat Satyam in it. People ask the question, while I'm discoursing on Jagat Mithya, the question is, but in the real world. This is very funny. This is exactly what happens. Is that subconsciously we're like, what? How can this world be an illusion? What type of mad concept is this? Yeah. So there's complete rejection of the idea. Although consciously, if Shastra has said it, Swamiji has said it. Okay, we better listen. We better not just sit and fight with him straight away. Yeah. We can fight later, but not now. Yeah. But listen. So that means there is doubt about the statement. About this statement, I don't think it's correct. And even last one, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha, I am Paramatma, Purna Paramatma. Wait a minute. Because this will now challenge even my spiritual practice, my religious practices. My religious practices, I am Jiva worshipping Ishvara. And now you're saying that Aham Brahmasmi, I am infinite. What? So you find even religious people will find that last concept very difficult to deal with. Ritualistic people will find Vedanta quite hard to deal with. Because in ritualism is based in duality. And now finally Vedanta is saying no duality. So even religious people find it hard to believe in. Atheists will find the first statement hard to believe in. Brahma Satyam, the infinite alone is real. Because they'll say, no, the world is real. Yeah? There is no God. Brahman doesn't exist. God doesn't exist. So for the atheist, the first statement is very hard. For the person who's got lots of, they may not be atheists, but maybe believing in God, but got lots of worldly attachments, then the Jagan Mithya will be very hard to accept. Yeah? And for the ritualistic person who's used to being a helpless, hopeless devotee of God, waiting for God to save them, for this person, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha, I am Brahman, they would not accept that. Because they will constantly want some God to come out of heaven to pick them up and put them into Vaikuntha, Kailash, heaven, take care. They say, oh, I don't want to sit there and think that I'm Brahman. That's too much work. Already this talk on Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana already sounds like too much work. So, Amidji, can't I just sit there and say Ram, 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 and Ram will come and carry me away? Sounds much easier than all this Shravana, Mananam, Tatparya, Nirnayam. I don't even know what he's talking about half the time. Ayyo. Yeah? But you see, this is the means to moksha. O Shastra has said it, Upanishad has said it. Okay. So in Mananam, our end goal is doubt-free knowledge. That's what we're trying to achieve. Samshaya Rahita Jnanam. Doubt-free knowledge. Why? Because if there is doubt, conscious idea doesn't go into subconscious. And if there's no change in subconscious, there's no change in life. You are the same person. So I've given you the what? I've given you I've given you the why you have to do Mananam, the goal of Mananam, how to do Mananam. But Mananam, actually, I had discussed this last week in Vivek Chudamani, but we'll take it next week because it's a topic that requires a bit more attention. Cannot gloss over. How to do reflection, how to reflect on these ideas, okay? Okay, now this much. Now, I know a lot of people are listening to talks and a lot of people are reading books. Now you should practice Shravanam in the sense that practice the skill of identifying the main theme. This is a skill you should practice this week. Now, Puja Guruji's lectures are there. Puja Swamiji's lectures are there on YouTube. So even this lecture today, you should try to have what is the main theme that is discussed. Then what are secondary themes which are discussed? And in any topic, maybe we have now gone into a very deep theme in this particular text, but then you should know what the theme of the entire text is. And then the theme of the chapter is, and then the theme of the verse is, and then connect it. Verse to chapter, chapter to book. This is how you connect things. So the book has got a main theme, the chapter then has a theme, and then verse has a theme. Yeah. So we said Bhagavad Gita essentially is a moksha shastra, but chapter 3 is on karma yoga. Now, how is karma yoga connected to moksha shastra? Is because Arjuna needs to purify his mind to appreciate and abide in knowledge. How does he purify his mind? Karma yoga. And then in that karma yoga chapter, then a few verses will be exactly how to do that karma yoga. Yajnatar karmanonyatra mai sarvani mai sanyasya sarvani karmani sanyasa adhyatma chetasa. The essence of that karma yoga is given there. So when you see those verses, you should know those verses are the essence of that chapter. But then how does that chapter connect to the entire book? Because the book is not about karma yoga. So chapter 3 is actually auxiliary. That's why we say actually the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is given in chapter 2, not in chapter 3. Because in chapter 2, Atma Jnanam is given, and the phala for Atma Jnanam is given, Sthita Prajna Lakshana. The Sthita Prajna is the actual result of Atma Jnana. There is about 2 verses on Karma Yoga that are given in chapter 2. That's it. Those 2 verses, then he elaborates as chapter 3. Actually, chapter 2 is considered to be the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so now practice this type of Shravanam. Even study. Shravanam doesn't mean listen. Even in your studying, identify main theme, and connections. So, okay, we'll leave it at that. Few announcements and then we'll close for the day. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.